Why, thank God for the Millennials and Gen Z. I, a Gen Xer, have to salute many Millennials and many Gen Zers because of the perspective that I don't have, that I've gotten. I was lucky to encounter interesting Millennials here in the Northwest. And the group, the Agrolites, the group, what was it? Amy Winehouse, the group, the Shacks, Surf Curse. These are all millennial groups and the sound that millennials supported. So I have to give them a salute. I mean, the Burger Records, that was an incredible period of time. Hellcat Records, amazing period of time. You know, and then Gen Z came up with stuff that I would have never foreseen, such as the synthwave explosion. I've had to explain this to like older people about like, they'll hear something and I'm like, oh, the kids do that. Yeah, they're all about this. And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, you know, the synthwave thing. I don't even realize like I keep up on that kind of thing because I like music and I like style and fashion, and that's the realm of young people. Now, fashion-wise and style-wise, there are some things that are very interesting that the millennials and Gen Z, so some millennials were into the throwback thing to the point that they redesigned old throwback styles in ways that I didn't foresee, and that was really dope. For how much Gen X might have been what people think of American Apparel, the clothing was being sold to the early millennials and mid portion millennials. When they became adults, American Apparel was like a big thing. Without and so the whole look that you get out of that movie where they're in dreams within dreams within dreams, like that whole style of dress. Remember Snatch? Though a Gen X kind of thing, it ends up becoming a millennial style movie. There's a lot of, and then there's just a lot of style things that, like, because I get to see them in video games, you got to give Gen Z and millennials their salute for they're doing their thing. It's just we're old. We don't get it. But now, the downside, yes, there's some real crazy young people that are very damaged. But we're not taking into account like Alice in Chains. Oh my God, what's it? Temple of the Dog. Temple of the Dog is one of the most exemplary. And then the life of Tupac Shakur. Just his. You just look up his. No reason his life needed to end up that fucked up. It wasn't that fucked up. I mean, but you get what I'm saying. There really wasn't a reason for it. His mama, and then he made decisions, and so it's this kind of thing of like Gen Z they've made me kind of see things in terms of memes, the millennials and Gen Z. So one of these being, well, Gen Z walks in and Gen X is represented by a single mom overlooking there. For some reason, there is a cop passed out in the corner. There's a dead body. There's a variety of random items that shouldn't be there in the room. None of which just make any sense. Like a tire, a pile of clothing doesn't belong to anybody in the room. Something radioactive that mother's telling you not to go near. And then there's something like, see, I got to see it. Those are two Gen Xers that are on old, poor, and hurt status. And it's like just melting, like these melting junkie bodies of older people now. And it's like, don't wear leggings and a hoodie if you look like that. No, like, have some dignity, just, bro, you're not in high school. Like, put on your dad clothes, put on your dad outfit, put some 6-pocket shorts on, look like a dork. You're old, be a dork. People look at it, oh, he's not a gangsta. That ain't no hype, nigga. He's wearing 6-pocket shorts. he's wearing his Bill Cosby outfit. He's a dork. He's an old dork. He's invisible. Ooh, whoa, that's a cool bike. Wow, that's a really cool bike. Okay. No, but I'm on the... And then also, because I play EVE Online without millennials, without Gen Z, we don't have what they've demanded from CCP games and from EVE Online has changed the game for the better. The Gen Z millennial cluster has, that interfaces, because they grew up with interfaces already in existence. They have actually been this amazing generation for showing us like how to think through an interface. And now there is an actual thing. It's supposed to work with Azure, and I'm totally serious. When you see the control panels on Star Trek: The Next Generation, Azure and a Microsoft interface, there's a whole project on ultra smart interfaces, and that the interface will change as you're using it, and constantly like change its its stuff, and you could command it. So in EVE Online, everything that you can look at that is anything, any information, so it will be like a little window, and it will have categories of what you're seeing, and then information about it. So what type of ship are you seeing? I'm seeing a frigate. Does it have a name? Does it have a security status violation? What is its transverse velocity, radial velocity, velocity, and distance? All that, they are in categories. So all these numbers are changing as you are flying in relationship to the other ship the whole time. This is why you need a certain speed of router, because there's so much information that both clients are dealing with at the same time from the server. So just all of this. So what's amazing is when you're playing EVE Online, it's like millennials and Gen Z, it's like these children are like telling you, oh, radial velocity. Okay, so you're explaining, transverse velocity to you, and you're just like, oh, okay, and what you have to do is understand that with artillery weapons and their tracking, and so really your advantage here is to use a web on this one and ideally dampen the sensors of the opposite, of your opponent, so they can't even track you while you just blast away, it's just great, and so the Gen Z is walking in to a room that there's like a dead body. Their single mom is on the phone with their biological father, and he's with his second family. He's with his girlfriend and her kids, and they're going to go get tattoos. So he doesn't really have time for all this. And what are you talking about? There's a body in the room, and what are you talking about? And there's a cop, passed out, and there's some kind of substances in the room. There's something radioactive. Don't go near that. Don't touch it. It's evil. And mom can't communicate any of this to the kid because she hasn't had her coffee yet. She hasn't had her coffee yet. And this is, I mean, the boomers had their own issues, but the idea that you would end up like that there's this inordinate number of like, kids who get who get dosed or have access to firearms with Gen X. No, that's us. Now, Gen X had the beauty of being the children of people who lived in the suburban paradise world. This is the thing Gen Z has to understand. The boomers got the brand new suburbs. There were suburbs before, but nothing like what they got to see. Huge expanses of nothing outside of the housing developments. Sometimes large expanses of nothing between housing developments. They got this awesome opportunity to bike into the distance. There was still the old things that were around, the levees, the parks that were in the middle of town, things like that. But I mean, like, my life in, say, Park Merced in the 80s, in the Park Merced district of San Francisco, and anybody who wants to, like, Google it, one of the most fascinating constructions ever. I mean, like, I really think that there's, to me, the thing is, Park Merced made me understand that we're just not creative. There's a lot of our problems that we could deal with, but we're just no longer creative people anymore, because we depend upon politics. We don't put it in the hands of somebody who's supposed to make something great. No longer can you trust the wealthy, successful person who does the job. You have to trust some loser who's in a suit and is a psychopath and cackles and glad hands people and stuff like that, because they're supposedly they've talked to lots of experts on things. So we can't do anything great anymore because we have lesser people doing everything. We have inferior people getting in the way of great people's opportunities to improve the world. Fundamental democratic issue that they really have a hard time with people who are better than themselves and can just do amazing things. They really do. That's why you'll find that there's a lot of late Gen Xers, and you'll find a lot of early millennials, women, that they have this real problem with Bjork, but they like all kinds of stuff that's tuneless and awful, like absolute tuneless, awful shit, like Lana Del Rey. Just this wallpaper, musical fucking wallpaper. They don't like Bjork, though, and a lot of people don't like Bjork, but no, that was like a Gen X thing. And why? Because she had some of the best production that had been heard for years. She had better music than almost all R&B singers that she was contemporary with. Flat out. Writing wise, production wise, everything. It was like R&B was always catching up. It was always catching up. It was always on the short bus of things, and it finally caught up like in the 2000s. It was, yeah. I don't give a fuck what anybody wants to say about Blige or any of them. They finally caught up, and even then, it didn't matter, because what ended up happening, somebody like Amy Winehouse brought soul back. CeeLo Green, the Soul Machine, brought soul back. And so it was, and then other whole labels followed in that internationally. So while R&B was just like getting rich on stupid marks and people who didn't have taste, there was this entire scene that the Millennials supported that was a scene of the rebirth of soul music, to the point that in my local record store, there is a soul label, the one that, what's her face? Sharon Jones, the Dap Kings, Daptone. Daptone had its own section, its own like shelf for its 45s, because it sold so many 45s in an exurban Oregon rural city. And so it's a salute to the millennials and the Gen Zers. And also, these are the people who really confirmed, No, you got all sorts of chomos and commies teaching us. You've got incompetents teaching us. Who are these morons that you have teaching us? Libs of TikTok couldn't have done it without, these people exposing, like, how bad things were in education. Salute to them. I mean, oh my gosh. And then remember, Gen X still has not figured out what was going on with the millennials, alerting everybody to chomery and how much chomo and Globochomo there is going on. That was the millennials. And the millennials were like, no, these guys are all over the place. These women are all over the place, blah, blah. And they had the links. They had the links to all these websites. They had, like, all the dirt on this stuff. Poll, the poll board and 4chan. I totally associate that with millennials and Gen Zers. That's not something I mean, it probably, again, has a lot of Gen Xers involved, but that was a millennial and Gen Zer phenomena. That wasn't us old guys. I mean, there's plenty of us probably on that board, but not like them. They were, I mean, who found Shia LaBeouf's flag? That probably wasn't old guys. We were thoroughly chuckling. We were like, you guys that's incredible. What, huh? But but then you remember, I remember doing things when I was a young man that took hours. And then years later, I'm like, boy, I was fixated on doing that. Because that's what it just is. It was just there. It was like, but Bob Dylan even said that. It said, blah, blah. And he goes, no, it was just there. The songs were just there. And so that's why it's like, I don't like this thing of like dunking on them so much. There was stuff about like what I was starting to see that really concerned me about millennial political stuff and kind of how odd they were starting to get. And then especially like the really weird feminist stuff that I was like, no, this is not normal thinking. Ugly girls like this shouldn't really have this much sass in their mouth, like ugly losers like this shouldn't be talking like this. But then it hit me, I was like, or maybe I'm seeing something very important. And sure enough, all these years later, now we know. Now we know. And yeah, so I love how third wave feminism now has shown out. I mean, there's almost no kind of it. I mean, the cruelty of the joke in a way, like the devil himself is like, so third wave feminism, you agree that this young man is actually a young woman. Well, glove up, bitch. Oh, I mean, it's the devil couldn't have made a better mockery of feminism than the Olympics. I mean, it's just cruel. It's just cruel. This is just amazing, and we couldn't have happened without third waivers. Could not have happened, and we told them this would happen. Even when there was those MMA people, I literally had some dumbass chick telling me when the MMA dude was beating the hell out of women, like, no, men are stronger than women naturally by orders. This isn't like multiple times, this is by orders. And she just was like, oh, I mean, and I'm just like, that's a fundamental, like, this isn't conjecture in any way, shape, or form. I just couldn't even understand what was happening in her mind that she couldn't get that. And but now it's total humiliation over and over and over again. Because apparently that's the only way of getting it across. The devil finally has to run his bit on you. All right, later.